It's a real pleasure to have all of you here. I want to invite for those ones who are at the back, if maybe you can join us at the table, especially the countries who are part of the EWC, that I would love to hear from you. Yeah? Pleasure, yeah, you can. Thank you very much. So I'm really, really excited to be here to present the Entrepreneurship World Cup. As many of you know, and as many of you heard about it, but today here at this room, we have many countries who are already part of EWC. I'd love to hear who in this room is already leading EWC in their countries. Okay, so we have a good representation here. So what is the Entrepreneurship World Cup? The Entrepreneurship World Cup is an initiative that is more than a pitch competition. It's a journey that takes an entrepreneur and with an acceleration program where they can have access to resources, world-class training, everything in a platform. They can click and play, and they can join whether they are an idea, a startup, or growth stage, whether they are in Asia, in America, in Africa, anywhere in the world. And they can also participate regardless their sector. So this is the greatest initiative in the world, the largest one in scale, because we're inviting 100 countries to participate, 52 of them already here at the GEC. And for the new countries who are coming here to learn about EWC, you're going to be very excited about it, and you'll be very excited to join us. As of now, we have reached 40,000 applications around the world. Our aim is to reach 100,000 entrepreneurs from 100 countries. We connect them not just, we provide them the access with the platform where they have all the resources to advance their journey and move on into the next stage. Applications are open now, so for those of you who are entrepreneurs here in this room, you can go straight Entrepreneurship World Cup and you can sign up right now. We also have this first phase on Gen Accelerates, that it's open for you, for all of entrepreneurs that are here until May 30th, here or they're watching live. But also, we're going to go with the participation of all the countries. They are leading the national finals. So we're going to have national finals in the leading countries. And the next stage is for entrepreneurs who are selected from those countries. Each country will have its winner and could move on to the next stage, which is Accelerates 2, where we connect those winners and those representatives from each country with mentors, top mentors around the world, helping them exactly with the business model or with the needs that they are required at that time. So the Accelerates 2 is specific for those ones that goes after the national finals. What's the timeline? As I'd say, so we have from March, we started applications. Many entrepreneurs have already participated at all 8 stages. And we're going to close applications May 30th, so make sure that you can promote or you can disseminate this initiative to all entrepreneurs in your countries so they can take advantage of this initiative. The acceleration program in Gen Accelerates is free of charge, so they can, as soon as they register, they can have access to all the resources available. And the next phase will be to have the national finals that are going to be happening globally at the same time in June, where all the countries are going to be selecting their finalists. Next stage will be, as I mentioned, Accelerate 2, which all the national winners will continue a program of acceleration and one-to-one mentorship. And we're hoping to get all those national winners to the finals in Saudi Arabia in November 12, 14, where they're going to be able to pitch to investors, where they're going to be able to reach a market of global network that we've been working on. So it'd be really important to have this calendar in mind for those of you who are thinking to participating in the EWC or lead EWC in your countries. After that, we do not forget about entrepreneurs. So after that, after the competition is over and the acceleration is completed, entrepreneurs will also join a startup club where they will also participate with more entrepreneurs who have gone through the process, but they're also going to be following up, and there's going to be a new network built out of it. Now, for many of the countries that came here, we've got 52 countries. If you see at the list and you don't find your country there, please come to me, because we have to make sure that your country has a representation at the Entrepreneurship World Cup. I just wanted to show you where are all the applications mostly coming from. These are the top 10 countries where we have received the most applications. The first one is India. The second is Nigeria, both of them with over 1,000 applications, 10,000 applications, I'm sorry. And Pakistan, Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, Uganda, Egypt, and Cameroon. One very important component in EWC, and something that we are working really hard at the national level as well as the global level, is that we believe that the Entrepreneurship World Cup will enable the national ecosystems to connect. So we have the entrepreneurs connecting with the universities, connecting with the government, the venture capitals as well, and the private sector. In many cases of the region, it could be just the academia, or it could be accelerators. Regardless who's leading the initiative at the local level, what we will love is to connect the whole national ecosystem. So independently where you're coming from or who you're representing here in your country, I love to connect with us, because I'm sure there will be one national organizer in your country connecting with the national ecosystem. As you know, here we have 170 countries, and we have delegations of many of those countries. So here at the GEC, all those connections are happening here right now. And I want you, if you're coming from a delegation, to connect with your own delegation, but also with the representative coming from the same country. What we would love to is connect the ecosystem through EWC and make a stronger ecosystem. Mentioning about how we connect the ecosystem, many of you here were asking me, how can I participate? So my question to you is, who are you representing? So if you're coming from the government, and the government has already an initiative on entrepreneurs, but we have a GEN country leading the initiative, we would love to connect, right? If the case is the opposite, it's a GEN country, but we do not have representation from the private sector, for example, but we have someone here who's willing to take the lead on EWC in their countries, we're willing to work with them. So just to make clear, is the way we work is that we connect the ecosystem, regardless the national organizer, who's the national organizer interested to be. And the way we do it is we have one national organizer, and we bring together also, if they want, promotional partners. So we connect them with promotional partners, sponsors who can also provide some sponsorship for prizes or incentives for entrepreneurs. We also have at the global level knowledge partners that can also provide us with the content tailored to specific cases. And of course, investment partners where we can get some funding for those entrepreneurs who make it to the finals. So at the global level, it works exactly the same that as you're leading it in your countries at the national level. So what I want you to understand is many of you were confused and they said, well, do I need to be an organizer to be able to be a partner on promotional partner? And my answer is no. You can be just a promotional partner supporting the initiative of the national organizer at the local level. In terms of prizes, so we would like to get the greatest minds and creative entrepreneurs that you've got in your countries. And through that, we invite you to get that incentive to entrepreneurs. So national organizers at the national level will be national prizes independently on each country. But at the same time, at the global level, we'll have 3 grand prizes for each stage. So as I said, all the stages are welcome to apply. Idea, startup, or scaling up, they're welcome to apply, and they will have each one a prize in November. At the same time, we want to have specific industries that we will support and participate, and they will have a specific process for those industries. We welcome as well social enterprises. So as I said, this is the most inclusive initiative in the world, in a sense that we welcome all the stages, all sectors, and all countries. And of course, every national winner will have their national prizes at the local level. In total, we're calculating over $5 million on it. What we expect at the finals, so for those winners at the national level that go into the finals, we're going to have a fantastic event in Saudi Arabia. As I mentioned, we work very close together with MISC Foundation, and it'll be an honor to have this special event in the global finals, bringing the greatest minds in the world, the greatest partners in the world, that we're going to be able to see who are the entrepreneurs of the world that are bringing the solutions, the innovative ideas, and businesses. So we will have there live the pitch competitions. We will also have speakers, and it will be a similar event where we will have we'll share content, keynote speakers, and an opportunity for all entrepreneurs as well to network with investors. So it is the stage where we want entrepreneurs to close deals. It is the stage where we want entrepreneurs to get solved any needs they have, whether that is investment, whether that is market, whether that is more knowledge or mentoring. The idea is to have a whole package for them at the global finals. Where are we looking in national organizers? And for those countries here who are interested to know what are the requirements or what do they need to do, the reality is that at the national level, we want countries to take the lead on calling for applications, making sure that at the national level we have a high participation of entrepreneurs. We also have the idea of promoting themselves at the global level because they are the national organizers in that country, and also that they become the enablers connecting the national ecosystem, so that will allow entrepreneurs to grow their venture. Many institutions come along the way as well as promotional partners. And to be a promotional partner really means that you will be able to disseminate the initiative within your network. So here we have, actually we have some institutions that are networks of networks, like in the case of China, or institutions that they already have been working with entrepreneurs and could partner as a promotional partner at the local level. We also look and encourage investors at the local level to connect. Here at the GEC, we had the GBAT meeting, which is the network of angel investors. And as important as more venture capitalists, the venture investors, the angel investors as well, it's interesting that we could connect this network with the local level. So entrepreneurs at an earlier stage could have access to capital at an earlier stage. And this is more at the global level, but applies as well in some cases in some countries where the content is more tailored to specific needs of the entrepreneurs in their countries and is knowledge partners. So at the global level, we're working with different potential partners and partners that are also providing us top world-class content to make the acceleration program strong and also tailored to some specific needs for specific countries that require it. And last but not the least, to get some prize partners. So if any of you here would love to sponsor either at the national or global level, let us know. We're looking also for sponsors that could come and support these initiatives. At the national level, as you know, we're looking at have live finals in 100 countries at the same time, and that requires connecting with the private sector, with the sponsors who are interested to participate and support. If many of you already have my contact, but if you don't, please take note of it. My name is Ana Maria. I'm the director of the Global Entrepreneurship World Cup at Jane Global, and I'll be delighted to be in contact with you. But the idea of this session as well was to open the floor to all of you as countries, as organizers, as potential organizers in their countries. If you're an entrepreneur, let us know. And the idea here is to create a dialogue and see how can we come together and how can we make EWC what we want it to be. Thank you.
I have a few questions. I'm here. If we want to become an organization, part of the organization, do we need to pay a fee to be part of the World Cup? And second one, is the winner of our country being paid for all the expenses to go to the final competition?
Okay, so for the first question, you do not have to pay a fee. This is a free of fee for organizers and free of fee for entrepreneurs. So it's wide open, inclusive, and nobody has to do a financial transaction to participate. That's the first one. And the second one, we are inviting the top 10 entrepreneurs around the world, the winners, with fully funded, fully sponsors to participate in the finals in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, I have a question here. My name is Khaladi from South Africa, and I'm glad to see that we are already around 1,600. It shows that our campaign is working, and we'll go and beef it up so that we can beat Asia. Or China, the number one. I just want to see, it's 1,600. How are we going to choose the ones who will pitch at national level? will you make those available to us?
That's a very good question. So at the national level, we'll have national finals. And there is a process in place for it, which we have a platform that it will be available for national organizers to use. And the platform, again, is part of the program that it's available to national organizers. So you can use UNoodle, and we also have a representative from UNoodle here who's going to be speaking as well in a training for national organizers. So through the platform, you will be able to evaluate virtually the candidates to select the finalists that are going to go and participate in the national finals. And at the national finals, for those countries who are selecting to have a live event, which is highly encouraged, then you're going to have to, you're going to be able to select your winners.
My name is Adulai Bari. I'm from Guinea-Bissau. I wanted to ask if it's possible to organize it this year, because of we never organized it, and do we have a time to apply as an organization to be the local organizer, and then open the application for entrepreneurs to apply before June, and then to go for the World Cup?
Yes, the short answer is yes. You're absolutely welcome to apply now, today, after this session. You can talk to me directly, and you can apply. The earlier we confirm countries, the better, so entrepreneurs will have more time to devote to their training, which is available until May the 30th.
Okay, hi all. My name is Sambo. I come from Niger. So a question that I have is most of the Gen competition and Gen-related competition are running in English. So we are French speaker. I come from French-speaking country. So we have a real issue to attend this kind of competition. So we are in West Africa, more than 300,000 French speakers. So we are excluded from this kind of competition. How can you manage this issue?
That's a very good question, a very valid question. Here at the EWC, as we open to the participation of 100 countries, it becomes complicated to manage the different languages, and we understand that's about it. However, we work at the local level with some organizations that they provide support to entrepreneurs at the local level. So in some countries where when it's suitable and the situation works, like they are accelerators or the universities or they are hybrid, for example, and they provide support to entrepreneurs, that's something that they're willing to do as part of the program because that's what they do anyway. So they help entrepreneurs to present. Having said that, all the deliverables can be submitted in your local and native language, because evaluators, who are the judges at the national level, will speak your language. So at the local level, you're super welcome to participate as long as you complete all the deliverables required. And what it will be important is that if you want to go to a global level, you will have to have in the team, or whoever that team of the startup is participating, that they can communicate their solution and their idea or startup or business to the world.
Hello. My name is Boris Lemus from Guatemala. I just want to know if in these main categories you have, it has their own categories, because in the evaluation process, how you will evaluate a fintech from medtech who's trying to cure cancer, for example. I mean, it's peaches and apples. So.
Yes, every country is different, and many countries have, like, for example, a specific focus on a specific sector. And it is real that in the evaluation, we're looking for innovation. We're looking for startups that are able to show the innovation of the country, but also that they are viable at the long term and investable. So that will be a decision that is taken by the national organizer country. In some countries, for example, if they can provide prices to idea, a startup, or a scale up, that's going to be something that they can evaluate if they do have the opportunity. In some countries, that's not going to be the case, and they will have to choose only one representative. So it really depends on, at the national level, how the ecosystem is connected and how many prices at the local level could you come up with to support the entrepreneurs and get, like, for example, one price for idea, one price for startup, and one price for scale-ups. At the end of the day, what is important for EWC is that the country selects one representative, whether it's idea, startup, or scale-up.
Hello, my name is René Salomon from Bolivia. We already are involved. We already signed the MOU to organize this. Listening to you and the questions, every country will have a finalist. And then out of the 100 countries, we will have the 10 finalists that they will go to Saudi Arabia. Are they going to be a structure where they can compete like continents, and then from the continent will go out, or maybe we will have 2 from one country, or doesn't matter? That's my question.
That's a very good question, and we're open to do regionals if needed. As it is structured now, is that we're inviting countries to lead their nationals per country. I think EWC has been very successful on it. In the few weeks that we've been open, we already have 52 countries, so I believe that for the rest of the countries who are here, you're going to join us and we're going to make it grow. As it is now, we don't have regionals, but that's something that it is possible, and it will depend on the region. So, for example, if in this region, let's say, just an example, in the Middle East, they would like to have a regional event and they coordinate it, and it's something that it could happen, yes, definitely. If we can make it happen until before June the 30th, that's possible. As it is structured now, it's by country.
My name is Stephen from Ghana. I wanted to find out, on the country level, is it possible that local organizers could maybe charge a minimum fee, all right, for participation? Because for us, for instance, I think I spoke to you a while ago about this. We spoke to the ecosystem, the way we want to structure the whole program so that it will be very exciting and people will feel valued to kind of participate in this, so that they don't just see this as any ordinary competition that they're going to do. So if, let's say, an applicant pays a minimum of, let's say, between somewhere $10, $20 max equivalent, okay, as an entry fee to other competitions. In that sense, we felt that could also help, not to make money from it per se, but to use those resources to admin and start the whole process of the competition, local organizations and all that, if that could be allowed and integrated into the whole program.
In the case of Ghana, we have the greatest problem, and it's high participation, isn't it? That's one of your concerns. So we have that problem in very few countries where the level of participation could go over the thousands, right? The idea with EWC is that it's accessible. So we want to have it as free as possible for everyone to participate. Your concern regarding how can I manage to cope with the volume of entrepreneurs who are applying, and how can I guarantee the amount of judges are available to evaluate the amount of applications, it's completely valid. We are structuring an stipend fund, so national organizers could apply based on their strategy and the goal of applicants that they have. So that could solve problems or cases as Ghana, where that will become an issue to manage that level of applications.
But
Stephen, that wasn't your question, was it?
Yes, not precisely as an issue to manage, because the entrepreneurs, most of the time, if we are looking at it from the perspective that they are putting their skin in the game, okay, they feel value. You know, we've pampered them a lot. Most of the time we give them free resources, everything is for free. So people don't really sometimes, yeah, let me just go and pass through it. Okay, we want to get high quality entrepreneurs, people who really mean what they want to do.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's the purpose, not per se as to in terms
no,
of the
and in that
management.
sense, I think it is something that we have discussed is that the platform has timetable where the entrepreneur needs to be completing a set of deliverables depending on the stage where they are. So that means that it has to be a commitment to complete the process. It has to be a commitment to read through the material, get ready, prepare, and then once you're ready to submit it, you access to the Junior platform, which is the latest stage, let's say, which is a questionnaire, very, very complete questionnaire. And once you complete all deliverables, then you become eligible for evaluation. But if you not complete all the process and you don't do the homework, let's say, on due time, then you're not, as you said, you're not taking it seriously. And we want entrepreneurs to take it seriously. So the cutoff is once you complete all your deliverables, then you will be able to be eligible to be evaluated.
Stephen, does that answer your question? Can I just, because we've worked together for many, many years, so I think I know you. So it's not a monetization question, it's more a quality of application.
The applications, and you see, for instance, it's an idea we're just sharing here. Maybe we could all pick it up and learn from it. Like you're saying, most of them, even in terms of the process online, okay, some of them might need guidelines to help them, you know, go through this process online to make sure that they do things efficiently. Okay, so, I mean, that resources that is going to go in, is, if we want to be properly look at it, is all cost factor. Okay, we need to get some mentors, some people to sort of help. We could even try, what the plans we have set is to do a local boot camp for this initiative. Okay, so within the boot camp, we'll train them how to do this application online, what we are looking out for, how they have to prepare for these things. All right, so we are saying that whatever might be, if that little fee, it's not something that is going to get people not to be interested. Okay, we know, like, for instance, in Ghana, if you're telling somebody to pay like equivalent of $20 to enter an application for a competition, that stands at maybe winning a local prize, because we want to put a local prize money onto it. They'll be compelled, they'll do it, you know, because we've seen other competitions in a country that charge even higher, and they're able to get 10,000 and above applications, you know, coming through that. So for us, that is a model we are thinking around, but I'm just asking if it is allowed within the ecosystem for a local organizer to sort of run that. I mean, that's what I'm...
As we have it structured here, no, there's
Okay.
no fee involved in the registration.
Let me just add on that. However, if you want to provide a fee-based service to entrepreneurs that have applied, but you want to give them an optional thing where if you want assistance from this particular program that's going to help prepare you, am I correct, Anna Maria, that would be permitted if they wish to do that as supplemental support, rather like Susan and Matt, you know, yeah, okay.
Absolutely, and I think, I'm not sure if we have any of the countries who are doing this on the side. For scale-ups, they will need a little more of preparation and training and mentoring. And that's a set of mentoring, let's say, or service that is provided for some accelerators, if that's the case. So yes, it is done through a service, a package of services that they do, but it's not through EWC.
How are you going to measure the effectiveness of the organization that carry out the event in each country? Is it by number of participants, the quality of the applications? I don't know. How are you going to measure the local organizer?
Yes, so we're working with the local organizer to have a goal per country. So we do expect national organizers to reach the goal that is set. It really varies in every country, and it also varies because some of them have really strong promotional partners already, or are looking to close really good promotional partners. So it really depends on how will be the total network of what they have. But basically, it's through the quality of their entrepreneurs, right? So if they manage to select not just by quantity, but also by quality, a representative or a winner at the national level that can go to the global level, hopefully to make it to the top 20, to the top 10 and make it to the finals. But we also encourage countries to support all the finalists, because at the end of the day, we want to see everyone in November to present all the national winners.
I have to. Hello.
Go ahead.
I am Maji from Tunisia, and we will join the World Cups recently, and I have two questions. The first one is about how we can position the Entrepreneurship World Cups. We have already the Creative Business Cup, we have Startup Weekend, we have the Agro-Business one, we have also the Clean Tech. And what are the positions of in the market? How we can market it is different one, is generals, we can take all kind of startups. How we can position this new competitions for us with the other competition that we already organize in the countries? This is my first question. My second one is we have just one national winners who will participate after in the globals, and in the global they are award or prize for startup, for idea, for growing, and they are for four kinds. And if, for example, suppose by the end we have 50 countries who participate, and we have 30s, they compete in idea, and 3 or 4 they compete in growing. I prefer, for example, for my national winners, to privilege one who will be in one category with less competitors. It's not so clear, because after that, when you divide them by categories, we are not sure that you have the equal numbers in each category.
Yes. So for the first question is, EWC is not just a competition, and that's I think it's per se it stands out. EWC, it's a program, is a whole development program for entrepreneurs. Where it starts with Gen Accelerates, where they provide the training and the mentoring, and it's a platform, plug and play. Every entrepreneur can join, as I said, regardless where they are or sector or country. And the second part is, I don't know any other competition in the world that gives you access to 100 countries' market potential. So as soon as you join Gen Accelerates, you're having access to 100,000 entrepreneurs in the platform that you can interact. So if you're an entrepreneur, you want your product to launch, or you want to showcase your product, we're talking about that you have a market of 100,000 entrepreneurs already connected in the platform, and 100 countries global market. On another note, we do not forget, once the entrepreneurs participate and finish the competition and they get prizes, regardless if they get the prizes or not, they join a club of more peers that are dealing the same kind of issues. Now, in regards to your question of how do you manage idea, startup, and growth, every country will select what's your national winner with the parameters that they want to select it, because the finals will be run by every country. Every country has a different need. So some countries focus on technology, some countries focus on more creative initiatives. So it really depends on the country what they want to produce. But at the end of the day, what we want is that the countries select their winners and they can compete at the end. So ideas will compete with ideas, the startups with the startups, and scale-ups with scale-ups. There will be prizes for everyone, and that will make it more accessible for everyone. So whether you're an idea, but you have a potential idea, then you're going to be winning the prizes for it. I've just been notified we've got 5 minutes, so we're going to take the last.
Here. Okay. Can I have this one? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. I'm looking at the time that is left, and I'm thinking if we do not have much time, we're yet to start. Can we work on the national process? For example, we already have a database of entrepreneurs that we're working with. Can we be using that and really be selecting from those and preparing them in these different categories, startup, idea, and growth, and sending them through for this?
So for many countries, the calendar that we have set up for EWC works out. For many countries, it does not work out. And that's fine. Because if you already have a database of entrepreneurs that you've been working for the past 10 years, you already have thousands of entrepreneurs who have already moved on, or they're in the database, right? So for that particular case, we're open to work with countries on a customized basis, and we make it accessible for that database if the times and the calendar in your year doesn't fit for us what we have at the national final.
Anna, just a last question here. It's about...
Sorry, I think it was David before. I'm sorry. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, hi, this is David from Chinese Taipei. Since in Taipei we have a lot of international company, so on the criteria of the national candidate, is it by where the company is registered, or is by the nationality of the co-founders?
That's an excellent question. National organizers will decide, like in this case, is where the company is based. So if it's based, it could be international, but it's based in China, Taipei, then it's welcome to participate.
Thank you so much.
And final, sorry.
Yes, it's about, we have a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs in our countries and in our context. How do we differentiate this one? What's the value for them here in order of how are they going to get this value of education? I mean, the tracks, you have already all these tracks of Accelerate 1 and Accelerate 2 already confirmed, or do you have a track for social entrepreneurship, for instance, differentiated than for traditional entrepreneurship? Or, I mean, I would like the specification of what value are they going to get about those stages specifically.
Yes, as I mentioned, we're focused on growth stage. So whether they are an idea, a startup, or scale up, we're not focused on sectors. Everyone is welcome, regardless of the sector. So that is how we have divided. Now, in the case of how they access to the content is also by a stage of growth, and they follow a path. So it's different what is required for a startup than what is required for an idea and what is required for a scale-up. It's completely different. But the beauty of this is that entrepreneurs can do it at home. They can do it anywhere where they are. If they travel, they can do it as needed. If they don't have time and they just only want to do it at night, they can just do it. It's not a commitment per se that they have to complete in order to advance.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Thank you. This is Chen from Beijing, China. Actually, I have one question, because just now you mentioned that we do not focus specific verticals or sectors, right? But do we focus on specific stage of the startups? Because I know that we're gonna select like top 10, global top 10. So if we do not focus on the same stage, how do we gonna select them? By what kind of principles or standard?
Sorry, our time has finished. I'm really happy to continue a conversation after this session. But just to confirm with you, in the case of China, it'll be, probably I will let Mr. Wan to respond that question.
Okay. Hello, everyone. In China, I came from China, Peking University. Now, Chinese, how to say this?
So I'm just going to make it short. I'm sorry. I'm going to make it short. What do you want to say? Okay. I'm just going to make it short, just to say that in the case of China, will be multiple prizes for every stage, and it will be a regional organization of it. So there will be participation of all the stages because of course, the scale in China. I'm very happy to continue a conversation after this. I really have to wrap up, but I really want to thank you, everyone, for being here and participate in this session.
Anna Maria, I'm going to take executive privilege. Since you actually do have 10 minutes to get to your other session, I'm going to just take 2 minutes if I can. There's something really important I just want to add, particularly to the question I think that came from Tunisia, which is what you need to know about what's different about this for us is that we've been involved in hundreds of pitch competitions. We're only going to be focusing the entire GEN network on this one. We are very focused on this not being about a pitch competition, as Anna Maria said. This is a program and a process. And that all the entrepreneurs coming into this they are already connecting with each other. And that this is about connectivity. It's about them, if they don't make it into your finals, they go back to the beginning of Accelerate 1. This is about a continual education process of your entrepreneurs. And the ones that do progress are going to have the full support of GEN in everything we do around the world, whether that be what we're doing in our governments or the connectivity that we can be able to provide. So this is not just about, for example, a prize and who gets to stand on the stage. This is really about the continuation. And our GEN Starters Club will be, we believe, a very powerful founders club for anyone in the world to want to aspire to be a part of. So I really want to emphasize we are very cognizant that we need to do this well in order to make it easier for you locally to explain to your entrepreneurs why are we going to do this versus all the other local pitch competitions that happen sometimes weekly. I'll just add one other thing if I can, but I just wanted you to know this has the full backing of everybody at GEN. We believe strongly that the critical part of this is not just the competition. Critical part of this is that it's going to be a long-term continuing education and networking opportunity and ways for your entrepreneurs to engage in this global community. So let me just add one other thing. I'd like to embarrass them and acknowledge two people in the room who've been quietly sitting in the back. Abdul Rahman, maybe I could get you to stand up for a minute with our partner, the MISC Foundation. Please be recognized. So we're going to be very much part of this process. And then also, if you could, Shiv Kemke. Shiv is, he's obviously a very successful entrepreneur himself, but he spends his life giving back to young people. T-Gelf, his foundation, is one of the most important partners in this process. And Shiv, you flew in to listen and see this, and I just want to say on behalf of everybody at GEN and EWC, thank you for being here. But we're going to have a lot of strong leadership involved in this, and we'll be hoping that this will entice more of your entrepreneurs and leaders in your countries to be part of it. So thank you, Anna Maria. I know that meant that you were on time. For the record, you were on schedule, and if it shows for the record that we were 3 minutes behind, it's on me. Thanks.
Start to focus and settle in. I don't know about you guys, but I really like these round table formats. I think we should just sort of sit in and just soak in the round table vibe. No, but seriously, we've been doing this since Moscow was the first Global Entrepreneurship Research Network meeting. And that was the same week of the annexation of Crimea, because some of us got to go to Red Square and see Putin announce the annexation of Crimea, so it was memorable for me. But what year was that? Can somebody tell me? Was it 2014?
2014.
2014.
March 2014.
So that means this is our 5th. That's pretty big. So, and we've gone through a couple of iterations with GERN, and today I think we're back to the starting point. We began the first meeting just going around, much smaller room than this, and asking those participating to simply describe what their research priorities were for the coming year. And then we had a discussion about what categories those different research priorities fit into, and then tried to distill those down into a set of priorities for GERN so that we could really amplify the interconnections between the different research areas. I'm not going to enumerate the ones that we came up with. I think that they resulted in some successful projects that are ongoing in various dimensions. But at a certain point, prompted by our colleagues at the Kauffman Foundation, we shifted direction, and it really became less around trying to find the interconnections among the people doing research, as it was around trying to respond to the needs of entrepreneurs. So for the following 2 years, and I think most particularly last year in Istanbul, the focus was on design thinking from entrepreneurs, and what could we learn from entrepreneurs about what their priorities were and the programmatic layers on top of that. And so what that really helped us to do, I think, was to have a sense for the interaction of research priorities with design thinking and listening to entrepreneurs. If we only listen to the priorities that are determined to us by entrepreneurs, we really miss the integrative aspect that you have when you have a kind of a level up view. Entrepreneurs don't necessarily think about, most entrepreneurs do not think about the ecosystem in which they're in as a system. They think about the ways in which they interact with the system. And at least for me, and I think I speak for the research team at Gen Global and for the GERN leadership, that it really brought me back to saying, now we're 5 years later, and each of the organizations with which we work has progressed and has been exploring, also listening to the community in different ways. And it's actually worth another inventory of where everybody is. And it's not that the design work that we did last year is sort of entirely put to the side, but I don't think that that exercise was conclusive in shifting the priorities that we had set previously or in reorienting us. So what we're going to do today, as potentially open-ended as it may seem, is just simply to, I prefer to go at random, because if we go around the room, then the people over here just like check their phones or whatever. So I might just do a little bit of randomization, but not everybody has their name cards. So anyway, you'll have to see about that. But we're going to go around and just talk about what is the priority in the next year and why. Okay? And it's going to be sort of 2 to 3 minutes, if it's a little bit longer. And then, if each of us really could take notes on what everybody else is saying, and then really start to have some question and answer, why that priority? Are we oversampling some areas and not others? Who's not in the room that we feel like we can represent? If we feel like there are big gaps in what's represented here in the room, are we aware of other organizations that are doing significant work that aren't in the room? And essentially, what is it that our community can really accomplish that we haven't accomplished yet? As Matt and Dane knows, I have basically no opinions on this subject. So, because we were having a discussion in which I was
Phil, can I jump in?
What's that? Yeah, yeah.
Can I
go
jump
ahead.
in about the importance of your questions? I'm Cristina Fernandez. I'm with Jen with Research and Policy. And for us, GERN is really important because we have chapters being built in several countries around the world, and they're all about ecosystem building. But not all of them are using evidence-based approaches. So the more that this community can serve the practitioners on the field, the better. So we are here to connect your research with actionable practice. So that's why the driving questions that I have proposed are about your priorities and what barriers are you trying to find out more about, so that we can then channel your results to the right people on the field.
Yeah, thank you for that, because that's the connection between the two parts of the evolution of GERN in the last 5 years that I really failed to make. So the point is not just to articulate priorities the way that I had expressed it, but as Christina said, to connect it to obstacles. So any questions about what we said? I know there hasn't really been too much deep thought here, but observations? Okay. Malvika, you want to start?
Hi, my name is Malvika. I'm with Mars Discovery District in Toronto, in Canada. And so we are an entrepreneurial support organization. For the last year and the next little bit, our research team's focus is on inclusive innovation. So given that we work in a mainly tech-based ecosystem, how do we make sure that that environment and those programs and services are available to the indigenous peoples in our community, to demographics that have been underrepresented and underserved, and also focusing the research on barriers prior to becoming an entrepreneur. Historically, our research is focused on, once you're an entrepreneur, what are the challenges you face in terms of funding, in terms of scaling, and so on. But there's plenty that you miss before even getting to the entrepreneurship stage. Who has the opportunity to be an entrepreneur, and what are barriers put in place well before then. The types of entrepreneur support entities that this would help the most are probably those focusing in regions that are under-supported right now and could benefit from understanding how to better serve their communities. In terms of data limitations, a lot of the work that we're doing involves self-reported data from entrepreneurs, and so it's hard to match across more well-established databases like Statistics Canada and so on, because they focus on a different scale of companies, and also there's a pretty big lag in how that data is made available. So we found it's easier to find peer groups of companies in different jurisdictions, in different countries. So we're looking to we're looking to the rest of the network to help us get some of that data and help compare peer groups of different sectors, different stages, and so on, to be able to do some of that analysis.
Great. Okay. So I guess I'm going to refrain from follow-ups. That's what it's probably not good if I set a precedent of follow-ups, so I won't. All right. Let's see. Matt, what's Andy up to?
So hi everyone, Matt Gutentag. I'm with the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs, though I previously participated in this group as a representative of the U.S. Agency for International Development, working on the same types of projects. So for those who don't know, my organization, so the acronym is ANDE, or ANDE. It's a global network of entrepreneur support organizations, so about 300 organizations that help entrepreneurs in Africa, Latin America, and Asia. In our research agenda, we have a couple, I would say 3 major priorities. So one is continuing our Global Accelerator Learning Initiative, which some of you may have heard of. It's been going on for about 5 years now, and we've been collecting data from ventures applying to and going through accelerators. We now have data on over about 20,000 ventures from about 280 accelerator programs, which we've been analyzing. Our principal investigator just put out a book last year called Observing Acceleration, looking at kind of the general trends of what can we say about the effectiveness of these accelerators in driving revenue growth, investment, et cetera. And we do make that data available for other researchers. So now that we have a data set that's large, that's so large, we're really interested in helping other people use it. So pushing it out a little bit more so other people take advantage of it, as well as working with accelerators on how to use their own data better and how to take our data set and use it for benchmarking. So really thinking more about the use of the lessons and the data itself by the accelerators rather than just continuing to churn out reports. So we're really excited about that, but we also are launching a new initiative called the Small and Growing Business Evidence Fund. And so this is a new fund that will support partnerships between researchers and practitioner organizations. So these are entrepreneur support organizations, whether this could be accelerators, consulting firms, other capacity development providers, investors, et cetera. And we're kind of doing a hands-on process to pair up those groups with researchers to answer questions that the practitioners have. So it really speaks to the idea of a practitioner-led approach about these ecosystem builders, and they might come to us and say, hey, we've been doing mentorship, we think it works, but we're not really sure what model works best for us. And so we would help put them with a researcher and support them to actually carry that research out. So if you're interested in that, please come talk to me and possibly participating as a researcher. And we have generous support of the Argyrius Foundation to seed that, but also looking for others to broaden the research we're doing. So that's sort of another piece at the intervention level. And then finally, Andy is starting in Uganda an entrepreneurship ecosystem initiative, which is really we started by mapping out the whole ecosystem and really trying to take more of a systems-aware approach, looking at how the different factors and gaps in the ecosystem interact with each other to find the most important leverage points. And now we're going to be bringing together different organizations to try to actually address some of those gaps. And we want to have a really robust evaluation and research agenda kind of at the ecosystem level. But we're still figuring that out. So if for anyone who's thinking at kind of that level, interested to hear your thoughts as well, because that's certainly something we haven't cracked.
Great, okay. Lucia?
Yes, thanks. Lucia Cusmano from the OECD SME and Entrepreneurship Division. As such, we cover a broad range of policies related with SMEs and entrepreneurs. I mean, it would be probably too much to mention all of these. So I would just like to point to a couple of areas where we see increasing important demand by policymakers and other stakeholders, mainly policymakers, and on which we are planning to invest in terms of research networks, and cooperation. And these refer very much to the heterogeneity of entrepreneurs and small businesses, the fact that we currently lack often good data on the attributes of entrepreneurs, on the heterogeneity of the business that they create, and on the performance. Just to mention a case, we often hear that one of the key challenges for starting up a business and scaling up a business relates to skills. But the evidence that we typically have, it's relatively higher level. So we know there is a skill issues. We know much less about what type of specific skills are the problem when it comes, for instance, to scale up to growth. So we have a plan to invest in this area by collecting more disaggregated data. And one specific area where we plan to have more disaggregated data is on gender. So we have an agenda of work that relates to inclusive entrepreneurship. We are looking at trends in entrepreneurship, barriers, challenges, as well as policies when it comes to groups that are underrepresented in entrepreneurship. This is women, but it is also youth, migrants, refugees, disabled, seniors. So all those that, in spite of having potential talent, often meet heightened barriers to enter into entrepreneurship. In particularly, in the case of women, we are going to work more on gender disaggregated data in relation to access to finance. So we're going to start some pilot projects with some countries in order to have at the national level and at the regional level the capacity to monitor access to finance by entrepreneurs by gender of the owner or the manager of the business. In addition to that, we are going to work more into two topics that also relate to women. One is digital divide and digital skills. So what are the main skills that are in need, and whatever are the specific challenges to develop those skills, particularly by women entrepreneurs. And we are going also to work on the evaluation of policies. This is, again, one of the major gaps that we see. So there are lots of programs, but very little evaluation. So we will be working on methodology for evaluation of policies that aim in particular to boost inclusive entrepreneurship. And let me just maybe mention a last area of work that we're going to develop in partnership with the European Commission. And this refers to scale up. So there is, of course, we see an increasing interest in the challenges to scale up. However, at least on the policymaker side, we see also some dissatisfaction with respect to the measures that are currently used to monitor scaling up. So we do acknowledge that digitalization has basically changed the ways businesses scale, but at the same time, we continue to use the traditional measures to measure firm growth, such as in employment, such as in turnover, etc. So the project is a pilot project that aims to develop a more comprehensive conceptual framework for scale-up. So we would like to look at different ways to scale up and combine different dimensions. It's certainly employment, it's value, but it's also like innovation, capacity to enter new market. And then we would like to make this an operational definition by looking and defining new indicators.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Ken, you have some thoughts on scale-ups?
Yes. We do peer entrepreneurship, so we pride ourselves.
Could you say who he is?
Pardon?
Could you say who we is?
Oh, so I'm with Quater. We have based our research on Rob Webker's work. Zoltan Ach has also been involved in our research, if you're familiar with Zoltan's work. We build a peer-based entrepreneurship framework and data analytics structure. We've had about 1,000 alumni through our program. We're looking to be a magnitude bigger, mostly through online initiatives. We're also looking to be a magnitude cheaper. We hope that those two efforts will enable us to do better longitudinal research. Some of our entrepreneurs have been in for 8 or 9 years, but certainly with the new batch of entrepreneurs, we're hoping to do true randomized controlled trial work. And we think the most cost-effective way to do that is to work in country. At least in the United States, we'd be working with the Department of Labor and with the U.S. Treasury to try and combine outcome metrics with personalized identification that we never have to know, so that the Treasury and Labor themselves can actually determine what are the effects of income changes based on all these input variables over a 10-year span, what are the changes in employment metrics for various companies, and what are the changes in economic mobility, things that are very difficult to do over certainly short time spans, but especially large time spans unless you have enormous budgets. We're hoping to make that quite a bit more cost effective.
Terrific. Harry?
Good afternoon. So 3 things, but just briefly, I work for the Argidius Foundation, a private Swiss foundation that's interested in improving the effectiveness and reach of enterprise development services. We do that by working in specific ecosystems, helping to garden those ecosystems. We build the capacity of market-leading organizations, and we've got a learning pillar where we both evaluate what we do and research through initiatives such as the Evidence Fund, pieces of work relevant to our field. The 3 sort of headline areas really are, 1, what works and for whom. We know that there are lots of things out there that don't work. We also know that there's increasingly things that really do work. which leads into the second piece of how do we put knowledge into action. So we're getting clearer on $1,000 over there is more likely to yield full-time job than over here. How do we get practitioners to put this knowledge into action? How do we enable entrepreneurs to use this information to make decisions about what they participate in? How do we draw funders into the space? So 0.0 something percent is spent on enterprise development out of the total global international development budgets. Given how effective enterprise development can be at important outcomes like employment, that's too low. So we need to bring more players into this space. And to do so, we need to get clearer on what the impact is when we see job creation. So what impact does that have in the local communities? What are the other impacts when firms grow, and get better at communicating that? So those are our three priorities.
Great.
Thank you. My name's Omar Al-Ubaidli. I'm an economist working at the Bahrain Center for Strategic International Energy Studies, which is shortened to Dirasat. We joined the Global Entrepreneurship Research Network last year in Istanbul, where we had the good fortune of learning of the work of Kelly Shaver to my left and many other entrepreneurial research activities. And as a consequence of the relationships forged during that meeting in Istanbul, we've been working for most of last year on producing a national study of entrepreneurial abilities in Bahrain, in collaboration with Mindset and with Tamkeen, which is the organization in Bahrain. We are very keen to support so Bahrain has an economic vision which focuses on making the population more entrepreneurial and more capable in global commercial settings. And as I'm sure you can all appreciate, a key part of doing that well is being able to measure entrepreneurial talents and being able to diagnose deficiencies so that one can tackle them. And that's been our main target in our engagement in entrepreneurial research with Mindset. And we look forward to sharing those results with you in a session tomorrow on entrepreneurship in Bahrain. Other than that session, I believe it's 11.
Okay. Okay, something like that. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
So anyway,
that's good. Great. Teo, what's that? Oh, yeah. Teo?
Yeah, hi everyone. Teo Filip. The innovation, sorry, I think someone cut off my mic. From the Innovation Growth Lab team at Nesta. So Nesta is a formerly publicly funded foundation, but run independently. And our team in the Innovation Growth Lab has been working for about 4.5 years, working mainly with government innovation agencies, trying to do quite applied research, doing specifically RCTs, randomized controlled trials. So that's kind of our area of focus. And we've also been funding for the past 4.5 years researchers across the world also to do RCTs in the field of innovation, entrepreneurship, and business growth. Some of the topics we've been working on a lot of different topics, so I'll just touch on a couple of them and then maybe say a couple of things about barriers. The inclusivity and particularly around kind of women in entrepreneurship and minorities in entrepreneurship has been something that we've been working more and more in the past year. This is specifically because some of our government partners are very interested in this topic. So we're looking at how we can do some experimentation. Some of it is around kind of how do you communicate innovation programs and entrepreneurship programs, but also other things. The other area where we've been working on is around how do you select who to fund and how to fund, these might be innovation firms, but also entrepreneurs and so on. And so we're working with a few governments, again, because all of our partners are mainly policy organizations that end up giving out quite a bit of funding. They have lots of different questions around how they set up that process, and it's actually quite related to the first thing around inclusivity. And then finally, we've been working quite a bit in the past year around a new idea which is been launched by a couple of governments around experimentation funds. So the European Commission and the British Department for Business have both launched experimentation funds, and the basic idea is to say we want more innovative ideas for how to tackle things like SME productivity, how to increase it, or more generally to spur innovation. And so we have a pot of money that we devote to anyone who has an interesting idea. Will fund it, but it has to be set up as an experiment. And so we at IGL have been kind of partnering with both the British government and the EU Commission to help them help those teams make sure that those RCTs and those experiments are really well defined, that they have clear outcomes and so on. Just a quick note on the barriers. The first one around kind of the research that we have been funding for the past few years. I think the key challenge, echoing what Harry was saying, is to translate that into action. So we've been learning quite a few things. Now is the time to kind of figure out how do we communicate those findings and get them to be used. The other one is particularly for the things I was mentioning around grant selection and how do you select who to fund. It's been a real challenge working with governments around what data they collect and how kind of comparable those things are. And then finally, with the experimentation funds, it's really been a learning process because some of the people who are doing some of these experiments are quite inexperienced. Some of them are academics who've done tons of RCTs. So it's just kind of trying to figure out how to navigate that and how we support them in that process. Thank you.
Great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rose Murad from Bahrain FinTech Bay. Just to give a quick introduction, Bahrain FinTech Bay is a leading fintech hub in the region, and what we do is we act as an ecosystem builder to ensure that all stakeholders involved are provided the support and level of awareness when it comes to interactions in the ecosystem. So within our cornerstones, one of them, specifically our cornerstones, would be to, as I mentioned, promote the fintech industry as well as support the stakeholders. And within research itself, that is what we try to do in terms of raising that awareness, as it is an emerging industry, as well as make sure that stakeholders, both when it comes to the entrepreneurs, as well as, for example, government entities, financial institutions, and etc., are aware of the existing information and data that's available that will help them both interact with these entrepreneurs. So when it comes to our actual publications this year, we recently focused on, there's a variety of them that I'll go by. I'll list them out. So first of all, we recently released a report on regulations. We wanted to make sure that both the regulator and fintechs, as well as people who are watching the industry, are aware of what are the regulations that need to be adopted, as well as how can we use this data as the reference points to implement it in emerging industries that come out. Moving forward, we're also looking at different dynamics such as women in fintech. We want to make sure that we understand what's going on in regards to women who are entering both as employees and entrepreneurs, and understand what are their experiences and how can we accelerate this trend, as well as what can entities do to support this initiative. Finally, not finally, but we do have also our ecosystem report, which we will be launching our second edition, and hopefully in July. And by there, that's where we really started off, by giving that level of awareness and reference points. It gives a general overview. It's inclusive of different stakeholders, as I mentioned, to make sure that it addresses any question marks that are available when it comes to really understanding this new industry and what it really entails. Finally, we also have a talent report that's coming out, second edition. That's where we try to look backwards in terms of what needs to be done when it comes to even academic institutions to ensure that we create the right workforce and we have the right skills available for entrepreneurs as well as employees that will be fueling these companies to make sure that they can really support the industry. So in terms of data limitations that we're facing, something that we're really looking forward to always is collaboration with external entities, especially to see how our research can be implemented in different regions as well as different ecosystems, and see is it still viable or is there different cases that need to be considered. Additionally, something else would be that we're quite curious to look into is how can these fintech solutions and fintech entrepreneurs enter different industries? What are the opportunities and challenges that could arise from there? Thank you.
Thank you. Faisal?
Hello, my name is Faisal Mohammed Abdali from Libya.
I'm the General Manager of the Libyan Authority for Science and Technology Research. So we are building a new research center under our umbrella, and we want to join the network of Entrepreneurship network to be able to understand what's going on in the entrepreneurship in the world, and to make the network very successful for us. Thank you.
Great, excellent. All right, Rashidor? Famous from last night, everybody's.
So thank you very much. I represent University of Dhaka, is the largest public university. So we have recently established an innovation center at Dhaka University. So what are the three initiatives that we are focusing on? One is an SDG, the role of entrepreneurship. So we are working with the Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce in Bangladesh. So we are looking for what roles that entrepreneurs can do in terms of realizing SDGs. The government of Bangladesh has really made some national plan about the role of government, but we don't have any track record of what the private sectors can do. The other one is focusing on women entrepreneurship, which we are working with the Bangladesh Bank, the central bank of the country. So there we'll be focusing on the market linkage. So what the women entrepreneurs need to update themselves in terms of understanding, and what the bankers, such a bank or financial institution, are facing in terms of problems that they are funding. And the other is we are looking for an ecosystem mapping for Bangladesh, where we are working with the Bangladesh Investment Development Authority. This is the works under the Prime Minister's office, where we are focusing on district-wise mapping of what the countries look like, where we are in terms of entrepreneurship. So the center is new, but it has an excellent board of both government, private sectors, as well as the university representatives. So we will look forward to welcoming you all to just share with you. I will share with you the research outcome with all of you. The center has 4 focus. One is the people, where we will be focusing on training and incubation. The other is the programs, and then we have policy research. The fourth is the place. So I will stop here. So if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Phumlani?
So my name is Phumlani, and I'm from Alan and Jill Gray Foundation. It's a private philanthropy. It's going to be headquartered in Rwanda, and looking to scale entrepreneurship across 10 different African countries. So I guess we are fairly new, but we were established from the successes of a sister company called Allen Gray Orbis Foundation, which has been operating in South Africa for the last 12 years. So our intellectual projects, or kind of research interest, and if people have papers on this, please share. It's redefining entrepreneurship from African experiences and observations. What we know is that the African context is full of young institutions, and in many ways informal institutions. So, and we are not clear as to how to support an unlikely youth entrepreneur, and we're looking for research on those areas. And then the second thing is disaggregating entrepreneurship ecosystems. I guess on a personal note, I have a problem with the idea of an inclusive ecosystem. I don't know what that means on the ground, given that entrepreneurship ecosystems are quite complex and nonlinear, and our approaches need to be disaggregated. So to avoid copying and designing effective interventions that support entrepreneurs at various stages of their venture. And then the third thing is, if anyone has African case studies of youth entrepreneurs, that will be fascinating for us. We know that they have unique pathways of scale and impact, but it's unclear, what they go through, what their trajectories are, given that there's little research around failures and successes of youth entrepreneurs. And then I guess the last point is just understanding enablers and barriers in transitioning African youth from a labor market mindset to considering entrepreneurship as a career choice, against this whole discussion around digitization digital skills for work readiness purposes. So how do we transition young people from that mindset to considering entrepreneurship as a career choice? We are not clear what that looks like on the ground and from a support point of view.
Okay, let's see, Tatiana? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Tatiana Krylova from United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. And so at UNCTAD, we have two types of programs. One is a policy formulation and implementation, and another one entrepreneurial skills development. So in the policy part, we have developed a few years ago something that's called Entrepreneurship Policy Framework, which we implemented in about 7 countries and 6 plus 1 country in Africa and Latin America. So now we are at a point where we really need to see what is the impact of this, policy measures implementation. And so here we would be looking for partnerships, to see how we can do that, because one of our challenges is funding. While we implemented the project and had funding to do the implementation, so now we really have to follow up and see what actually happened. And so then reacting to the points that was made by Matt, we actually have this situation where we can look at the ecosystem from the top and even at a global level and compare, how things developed. So that would be really something that would be important. We have not started it yet. We just really have some sort of verbal communication and reporting by member states. And next time it will be in June. And so everybody is invited to maybe to look into this, and we can discuss how to participate in this event in June. But we really need to make it a more systemic manner and to see really what is the statistic, what is data about that. So then in the area of entrepreneurship skills development, we have the program which is called Empretech, which is again, based on behavioral approach to entrepreneurship. And here we also have a challenge of measuring impact of, particular installations in different countries. We do it, but it's really more like in, episodical cases where we have the funding. For example, in Brazil, this impact assessment is done more or less regularly. Then we also did, we have Empretech in Saudi Arabia, also did impact assessment. But again, it's more individual, and we need to have a more systemic approach to actually see, to bring data out, because we know that, the impact is very high on the, on the specific success stories, and even in some limited statistics, but we really need more on that, because now there is a huge interest to Empretech as a behavioral-based program. It's now even in the General Assembly resolution recommended to member states as a really important program on behavioral approach to entrepreneurship. But donors and different potential stakeholders, they want to have data. They really want to have a systemic data, and so this is what we really also want to get. And we would be really very happy for cooperation and to really move that issue further. And we have a new initiative that will be actually the same for this year, as I feel asked to report on this one, that we started research and prepared a study on a research paper, brief research paper as a background document to discuss what we call a brainstorm meeting, which will take place sometime, we hope, in summer, on, again, impact measurement of entrepreneurship. But one of key aspects there is, coming up with the definition of entrepreneurship. So this is also based on research, because there is no unified, definition. Maybe there is no need for having one, but it's important to understand what is it we are measuring, what kind of entrepreneurship, at what level, and with what objective. So this is something, that has more questions than answers. But so this is really an important area of our work. And the pressure is really increasing because, with the Sustainable Development Goals, the measurement of impact of entrepreneurship on sustainable development is something that's really expected by member states, by all stakeholders. And so that adds to the challenge when we talk about, impact of entrepreneurship on economic development. So here we also have specific challenge of impact of entrepreneurship on achieving sustainable development goals. So, and again, this is all work in progress, and we really would be welcoming partnerships, and we look really forward to our cooperation. Thank you.
I'm trying to take notes, but there's such a diversity of different activities. It's pretty impressive, and every organization is doing a lot of things. Dane?
Thanks, Phil. Dane Stengler from Startup Genome. So two of our top priorities, but also areas of difficulty and challenge, similar to what Matt and others have described, is we are working more closely with the support organizations in ecosystems. So we started with accelerators this year and incubators, hoping to expand that to co-working spaces and other programs, competitions, to establish through them two things. One, a conduit for continuous data collection. As some of you know, Startup Genome, part of our work, part of our assessment is based on a large annual survey around the world. That's very difficult logistically to carry out. It's very expensive to carry out. So part of our reason for working with support organizations is to establish a more continuous pipeline of data. And part of that too, as Matt suggested as well, is to help give them the capacity to collect data on the cohorts, on the entrepreneurs that are coming in, and then ideally to give back to them in return an idea of the impact they are having, the value that they are adding in an ecosystem. We're not going to do this publicly, we're not going to shame anyone, but to deliver to them privately, here's how you compare, here's how you benchmark in terms of your value added, your impact to other accelerators in that ecosystem, in that region, and around the world. Now that, we started on that, but that, I think as many of you recognize, is not without a considerable amount of difficulty. The other, similar to what others have said as well, the inclusiveness, the diversity of ecosystems, specifically closing those gaps, is a major research priority for us, and then helping ecosystems actually do that. On a research and data front, what we're trying to figure out is how to collect more than just descriptive demographic data when it comes to inclusion and diversity. It's one thing to say ecosystems have X% of startups are owned by women, or X% of women-owned startups got funding. That is useful, interesting information. What we're trying to figure out is, how do you build that into a comparative performance assessment to show what ecosystems are helping close that gap, what organizations, what types of organizations within an ecosystem are doing, and how they're closing that gap. So actually, trying to move beyond descriptive data, actually make it part of the performance, part of the assessment, so we can see how the gaps are closing, what actions are effective in doing that, and then do that comparatively. That's one of our goals, but also challenges as well.
Great, thank you. Gina?
Hi. Yeah. Hi, my name is Gina Medina. I'm Development Director of Rosario University in Bogota, Colombia, South America. Our university has 365 years of existence, and since its foundation, its commitment has been with excellence. Currently, the principal objective of the School Management and Entrepreneurship Center is to form people to society. For us, entrepreneurship is a possibility, is a value that allows us to think for a better country. So one of the objectives in which we have worked is to show some of the important competences to venture and that we have discovered inspired by art. Likewise, we share everything we have developed in pedagogical innovation with results that have allowed people to relate in a different way to the meaning of venture and seeing from different perspectives. Art is a very good vehicle for people to establish a different dialogue with themselves and for it to be reflected in a work, in a creation, in a business, social or cultural initiative within or outside organizations. So the art that is used as pedagogy allows us to see another way to propitiate new routes for our dreams and objectives. All this is what involves the art of entrepreneurship at the Rosario University. So we have 11 competences that we work with our students. First of one is to be sensitive to the world The second is to think outside the box. The third is to innovate in the simple. The fourth is to surrender without limits. The fifth is the ability to risk to win regardless. The sixth is to preserve to grow. The seventh is to learn to reinvent oneself. The eighth is to have that need for achievement. The ninth is to learn from the past to predict the future. The 10 is to have the sense of group. Finally, it is to open the world to the world, and have that global thinking that allows local impact. So the conclusion that we allow to share is that entrepreneurship creates social value and allows social groups to develop, which results in an equitable, just and well-being society for all. And this is what the Entrepreneurship Center seeks to contribute to that commitment that since inception the Rosario University has with society and with the individuals. Thank you.
Thank you. Camilo? Camilo here? He's not here. Okay.
I think he just stepped out for a moment.
Yes.
Sorry, Jae Young? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Jae Young with Korea Entrepreneurship Foundation. Since I'm working from the cultural diffusion team, but I'm here with you to share some more about our research project. And this year might be our new paradigm-changing year in terms of research projects. Since our board members decided to input more our assets on research projects, so we luckily invited 3 academias from the universities who are energetically engaged in such research project in terms of entrepreneurship research projects. So we finally got transformed our research unit to the Entrepreneurship Research Center. So now we got more advisory groups, and we got more support from the academia perspectives. And then, so internationally and nationally, we would like to reach out our partnerships to get more valuable research outcomes. So for the first of all, we maintain our membership with Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. We actually there were 2 different entities that conduct the data collection among Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. But we combined those 2 different types of data collection together finally. And then also we try to join some other international research projects like GAS and Startup Genome on the basis of our partnership. So in case of Startup Genome, we reach out to the 2 different cities like Seoul and Busan are gladly join us to deal with this project together. So I will be the focal point to help them how to collaborate with Genome team. And nationally, we also doing some projects to understand entrepreneurship-related issues better. So this is how we work together in the ecosystem in terms of research. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Beauty, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you. This is Beauty Akhtar from Daffodil International University, Bangladesh. This is my first time here, and we have been included few months back. First, what are the specific barriers for the entrepreneurs that we are getting? Okay, in our country, most of the thing that I work with the youth entrepreneurship, basically with the students, the startups, new startups, those who are very potential entrepreneurs. But what are the things I find that they get frustrated after starting their work. Why they get frustrated? Because some of the factors some of the factors are behind them why they get frustrated. Access to maybe financial, access to some other things might be happen. So these are the main factors that I'm going to investigate, that why they get frustrated and why they cannot sustain in their entrepreneurial activities. And another important thing is that in our country, the more events we are organizing, that's why they become the competition trainer. Okay, so they do more competition. Why they become more competition trainer rather than doing the actual work and then execution of their work? That's what we're trying to do that. And to support this organization, there will have our support from private sector as well as from public sectors. But data limitation is what I'm trying to say, that we are mostly based thinking about the city-based. It's not the rural area based, but we need to focus on that part as well, to bring the data from our rural part as well, so that they can be integrated in our ecosystem, and then we can build the awareness regarding these things. So these are the things we are going to think about it, and if anybody can help us to doing this research, it will be better for us. Thank you.
Okay, so there are a lot of folks here. But I think that the only way to find out what everybody's doing is to ask what everybody's doing. So we are making some headway. We had envisioned, if you see the agenda, that we would be done in 7 minutes. That's not going to happen. But I know that we really have some important observations still to hear. Now, the advantage is everybody who's on the agenda has spoken, but we'll try to get back to the people who are officially on the agenda, particularly the research presentations, to give them a couple of additional minutes to offer the specific insights that they were on the agenda to offer. So I'm going to, basically that's all by way of apologizing in advance, particularly to Rose and Lucia, because you may have less time for an official presentation than you had anticipated. But I think that's in the interest of having everybody have the opportunity to share what they're doing. Adenika?
Yes, so I had Faith Foundation, which is a Nigerian nonprofit, and we are an entrepreneurial support organization. Started 19 years ago, and then about 5 years ago, we noticed that we're having increased engagement with policymakers just to help our entrepreneurs address policy and regulatory and business environment issues, and found out that this was a space that there was a significant gap. And so from 2015, we have 3 research and policy priorities looking at research from itself, so data gathering and analysis of the entrepreneurship environment in Nigeria. We do an annual policy dialogue series on entrepreneurship, which focuses on the outcomes and the findings from our research in a given year. And then from the outcomes of the policy dialogue series on entrepreneurship, we do quite a lot of advocacy. Because for us, the main objective of our research and policy is to help to guide policymakers in fulfilling their mandate, help them have, support them having a better understanding of the ecosystem, and more importantly, look at the impact, help support them in the review of how the policy making or policy review process is impacting, whether positively or negatively, on the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And so in 2016, 2017, we did a first edition of an entrepreneurship ecosystem study that sort of gave a very wide, high-level overview of the entrepreneurship ecosystem, the key players. And for a country like Nigeria, I can imagine that there are multiple levels of players across the different segments. So that now lent itself to a second level of challenge, which is how do you aggregate all this information and synthesize it in a way that makes sense, not just from a national level, but more importantly, even from subnational levels. So for our second edition, because we're now in the process of now doing a follow-on review of the ecosystem, we're looking to do that in a much more digital way. So how do you develop a tool that helps to better map and analyze the ecosystem. And for us, the objectives of our digital ecosystem mapping tool is not just to give a view from a national and subnational level and give insights to what's happening at the ecosystem, but over time also have something that allows you to analyze and look at trends and insights from what you're seeing from year to year, but more particularly also look at policy influences on the outcome of the ecosystem. And so we're right now just trying to engage with people that may have done this in different environments, looking from our learnings from the ecosystem study we did 2 years ago. What kind of indicators, what kind of metrics, how do you define them? How do you also get data? So how do we better source and monitor data, but also allow some way where people can also impute data directly. So it's not just working directly or indirectly to collect and manage that data, so that in the next 4 or 5 years, you can sort of do a trend analysis from how it was, and people can sift and review, get the information that they need. And one of the opportunities that we've seen very much is even working with Gen Nigeria in terms of better aggregating key stakeholders in the space, because there have also been some work done already, even with Andy at different local levels, and see how we can work together to help provide that information. Thank you.
Great. I mean, one of the things that comes to mind as I hear this is that the why of these programs is, or these, all the different activities we're hearing about is different in different cases. In some cases, to improve the effectiveness of programs. In other cases, it might be to inform new programs or figure out how to intervene or act within an ecosystem. Or in your case, there's a primary motivation to influence policy. And I mean, I know that we have many more motivations. We did an exercise with the Gen MDs yesterday, which really was a kind of starting with the why exercise and then doing a lean canvas. But I think we could we almost could have done that with the GERN network. What we're doing today is really just describing the what and a little bit of the how, but we're not really talking that much about the why. I think the whys are different. But anyway, just one observation. Majdi, you want to go ahead?
Thank you. I am Majdi Hassan from ICE. It's business think tanks in Tunisia. And for us, the why is very simple, because we are think tanks and all our members are business people is for advocacy. And we have a research plan for 3 years in entrepreneurship, because we have other fields that we focus on. And in this research plan on entrepreneurship, we focus just in 3 areas. The first area is the hidden barrier. And the second area is collaborations, and the third one is heterogeneity. For each one of them, we have 3 objectives to achieve. The first one is to measure, and after we have to propose the reforms, and the third objective that will be to measure the impact of digitalizations, because this is one of the main areas that our think tank work on. For example, for the hidden barrier, that we start measuring the impact of business environment and investment climate, and also the weight of regulations to start business in Tunisia. And we collect data via three sources. We collect through survey, and also we collect data from partners, and also we through the project that another department from our think tank they manage. We offer free service to entrepreneurs, and they come and ask us to help them and assist them to resolve some problem, to access to finance and others. And also that is the way for us to collect some qualitative data about the obstacles. And the second component, in terms of collaborations, we have built an index, measure the collaborations between the ecosystem actors, and also the effectiveness of the ecosystem in Tunisia. And the third one, heterogeneities, we start working in attitude and cultures, and see how we can have more entrepreneur for the next years. This is our focus and our research plans for the 3 next year. Thank you.
Great. Judicial?
I'm Judikael Elige, the Deputy Representative of the United Nations Population Fund in Chad. UNFP in Chad is working on the entrepreneurship ecosystem through the angle of demographic dividend, meaning that the aim of the organization is try to change the population structure with the government in order to have this population structure allow an economic growth. So based on that, we are currently working with the national chapter of the Global Entrepreneurship Network. And through that, one of the key areas we want to explore with them is first try to better understand the young entrepreneurship ecosystem in Chad. So I think one of the things we want to do is to explore first the profile of the entrepreneurs. What do you mean to be an entrepreneur in Chad? So through that, we will then be able to build the trajectories of entrepreneurs that can allow us to better know their failure, their successes, and how they also move toward this journey of entrepreneurship so that we can use them as role model in an established ecosystem. Another point we also want to do is also work on harmonizing the capacity building approaches based on what we have in the country. Because currently we have different approaches. I think it would be good to have a kind of model that can be used by the established organization in order to be sure that entrepreneurs go through a systematic, solid, and robust process that gives them the tools to move forward their different activities. And the last point is about setting a knowledge management platform and system that can facilitate knowledge sharing, as well as also good practices in a country where we did not have currently a lot of investment regarding SMEs and also startups. So that can certainly allow to give a better image of those who are in this entrepreneurship ecosystem and attract more funds inside and outside the country in order to build a solid and robust ecosystem in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy Cal. And, you know, I should say that I probably should have made more of a point of this earlier, but just as we're, you know, when I suggested you should take notes, I mean, the biggest value of this is going to be horizontal connections you make with each other. This is not like we're absorbing this information and something magical is going to come out of it. It is useful for us to hear, but it's mostly for you to learn from each other what people in the network are doing. So, yeah, Dane, you want to just add one quick thing?
Yeah, just to that, Phil, it might be helpful, and I don't know, Christina, is there a contact list for everyone here so we can have emails, and that might be helpful for
Let's just pass around an email
notes.
sheet
Yeah.
just to make sure that we got every.
I've got them all, but sure, yeah. I have all the emails, for sure. Yep, but I'll pass a sheet just in case, and we'll add
Okay,
you
well,
to
if there's
the
anybody
Slack
you're
as well.
missing, I'll count on you to get them, just so that we.
Just in case.
Because I don't want to miss anybody.
Sure.
Fair enough. Okay, no need for a sheet. Yeah, we basically know everybody. Okay, Camilo?
Thank you. My name is Camilo. I'm the MD for the GEN in Ecuador. I will talk about two fields of research that we're working. The first one is that the one which we do as a network, because in order, I don't know if you saw yesterday, we were nominated, and thank you for that, for the Policy Champion. And why it happened is because what we did is a very simple thing, is just to understand where are the gaps that our country has to other countries. For example, we used data that already exists, and we identified that in my country we have less capital for entrepreneurship than our neighbors. Then we said, why is that? then we identified what were the problems, and we used the network to work to close this gap. And in 5 years, we did. Then we're always using research, identifying gaps, moving the ecosystem, and closing those gaps. Now the main challenge that we are facing now is that we learned that countries that have a clear law for moving entrepreneurship and innovation has better results than other countries. Now this is our challenge. And then that's one thing we would love to share with you and learn also what you are doing to improve this experience in your countries. And in the other field, and in the other hand, and I work as a teacher in a university. It's a local university from a very small town in Ecuador. It's from the south of Ecuador, and we begin doing distance educations in the 70s. Now we have 40,000 students, and it's a university very focused on entrepreneurship. But the interesting thing that we're doing now is that we ask the question is how to increase quality of entrepreneurship, because we have a lot of challenge and things that you're already doing, but we don't have really a good quality for entrepreneurship. Then we decide to understand what are our main differences with other countries, and we identify that one of those is biodiversity. Then we now are investing a lot in research in biodiversity and finding new patents so we can connect this knowledge with entrepreneurs in university and have an ecosystem to help them to build a company. Now we have new 6 patents for country is a lot, that we had a few. We've been working with CAF, that is the Bank for Development for Latin America, and they help us to understand how to do this process. And we teach a lot of people in the university how to make patents. And now with these patents, we are teaching them how to talk with entrepreneurs in order to understand how to use it to begin to develop new business.
Great.
Then, and when the entrepreneur gets this, we use the ecosystem to help them to move it forward. Then that's the project that we are working at this moment.
Excellent, thank you. Mukhtar?
My name is Mukhtar Joueli. I'm from Libya. I'm the managing director for the GEN in Libya and the founder of the Research Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And I think 2 of the issues we concentrate on at the moment is to look at the barriers to building an inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem, and the second is how to introduce entrepreneurship education across all education sector and academia. So these are our priorities for 1920.
Fantastic, thank you for being succinct. Mohammed?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Mohamed Donga Christian from Chad, actually. I'm the co-founder of Network of Young for Leadership and Development in Chad, and also the GenMD for Chad. So we do work through Global Entrepreneurship Week to analyze the gap within the ecosystem and then find the right kind of policy to suggest or to implement in Chad. And we actually working also with the UNFPA that in a program that Judicael has just talked about. So we try to use the network that John is giving us in order to analyze the whole ecosystem, in order to to analyze the cultural and social factor that really are specific to Chad, and find which kind of program are really good to be implemented in our country, in which kind of policy we need to suggest in order to build the ecosystem we need in our country. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Wenshang? Thank you for your patience, Wensheng.
我来自中国，但我的英语说的不好。请我
Okay,
的
sure.
演
Mhm.
练
Yep.
我叫武文森，我是来自中国，是一家做企业研究和咨询的25年的公司 GI。
I am Wu Wensheng from China, and my company is doing some consulting business for high growth enterprises and for some top tier science parks in China.
很高兴能来到这个 GEC， 特别是和我们关于创业研究的网络，大家一起来交流。
It's my honor to be here to talk with all of you.
我们20多年来也见证了中国很多创业活动的兴起，特别是这几年，重点关注一个是研究创业活动，还同时研究中国的高成长企业，就邓林、格瓦热和独角兽 Unicorn。
In the recent 20 years, we have witnessed all the boom and emergence of Chinese innovation and entrepreneurship. And we are doing some research for Chinese innovation and entrepreneurship network and activities and some data.
我们有几个建议，一个是进一步加强，就是我们现在这个网络里边关于国家之间的比较研究比较多，我们建议加强和城市，特别是创业活动比较活跃城市的比较研究。
We have some comparative analysis and researches in different countries. I suggest that we may have some comparative analysis for different cities in the world.
第二个方面就是因为新的技术的发展，特别互联网是平台型的公司对我们创业生态系统的影响。大家都知道，在中国呢有像这个阿里巴巴、腾讯，还有百度、京东这样的公司。那么他们早期呢对这个创业的生态系统是有利的，他们现在也大量投资了创业型的公司。但现在呢，他们对创业生态系统的影响越来越大，它的这个对创业的这个抑制作用也在加强。
抑制。
限制。
The second, some of Chinese platforms are influencing entrepreneurship and innovation in China. Yeah, and like Alibaba and Tencent, they invested some of Chinese startups, and actually till now they have some bad influence, some hinder to hinder the increase or prosperity of Chinese innovation and entrepreneurship.
Just one more comment, maybe, because we got to continue. Yeah.
OK
第三个方面呢，我们
OK 了，他下面哦。
算。
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Okay, and then Stephanie, real quickly.
Well, I won't take too long. It's my first gag, and I'm Stephanie Jod from Germany, and I live directly at the border to Denmark. And I'm here on vacation. I'm privately here, so my research topic is cross-border ecosystems. And if you know about good examples for me, please talk to me. Thanks.
All righty. So, Sammy, I thought, wait, do you want to say something? Yeah, go ahead. I just didn't know if you're like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I was coming from another session.
Yeah.
Kim Betcher, Center for International Private Enterprise. We're not a big producer of data, but we produce some case studies, and I would say, topics of interest right now, I'm writing up on a consortium, sort of local ecosystem development in Guatemala, case to share. We're doing more refugee work, so anybody who's learning about refugees, love to talk to you, and in general, anything looking at the policy and enabling environment is where we're at. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. And Kim is a very well-connected individual and recently linked me up with what was an interesting project, and I think it's always always a good person to stay in touch with. Okay, so Sammy, I thought I'd leave you for last. You were on the agenda to present research. The other two folks who were here on the agenda to present research spoke, but really didn't have a chance to speak about their research. We've got a few more minutes. I really would like to have some little bit of question back and forth, but I mean, I think you've heard probably about the last third. And you have sort of a bird's eye view on research. So if you could say a little bit about what Kaufman's priorities are, but also maybe offer your assessment of how you feel like the field is evolving and you know, that kind of thing. That'd be okay?
So I apologize that my more interesting colleague could not make it, so I'm filling in for her, but she does this much better.
Who is that?
Jessica Luz.
Really?
She's our translation lead.
You're pretty interesting, so I don't know.
I'll do my best. I won't embarrass her.
Okay.
We, I think, are moving into a phase that Dennis described, Dennis Medvedev described well yesterday, and that is we're thinking about research from the perspective of a feedback loop. And so the way that I view it is we have research on one side and we have policy and programs on the other side, and we really want to be having a two-way conversation between both of these areas. And so one of the things that we're doing at the foundation is we're motivating our research activities by what we hear from the practice. And so we're trying to be very careful and very intentional about surveying practitioners, and that includes everything from mayors to ecosystem builders to entrepreneurs, and then we take their problems basically and their big questions, and then we use those to drive our investments in research for a given period of time. And so that's really the research to practice side, the practice to research side. And then to close the feedback loop, we're investing heavily in translation, and that is the research to practice side. And the idea is that we then take those practice-inspired problems, do some research on them, get those findings out to the people that can use them, and then assess again where they have moved in terms of what the big problems are. So that's just sort of a fast overview of what we're doing. And I think the big question that we're dealing with is what can inform policy and what we can do to understand gaps better. And so those are two of the sort of underlying themes in our work.
Great. Okay. So, I mean, last year we were talking about what works, what more on the programmatic side we feel like, but also somewhat on the policy side, there's evidence is effective. But I think that what I'm hearing this year, and it's underscored by what Sammy just said, is that it's not only about research establishing the parameters of what works, but actually building that feedback loop into our research system, so that we're really responsive to whatever we're learning on an ongoing basis, both in terms of research priorities, but also in terms of data and so forth. And that gets to what you were saying, Dane, about continuous data gathering. And I think the Andy, the Business Angel, project, excuse me, I'm getting my wires crossed. The Accelerator project. Sorry, my brain's skitzing, but if people want to Google it, it's the
Global Accelerator Learning Initiative.
Yeah, which GALI, which we've been a core partner in for 5 years, so my brain shouldn't short on that, but I'm like traveling a lot. So the Global Accelerator Learning Initiative is another good example. I think it's a great example, actually, of just embedding into an intake form the survey, so that you basically get the controls of everybody who participated in the accelerator program, not just the people admitted, or everybody who applied, not just the people who admitted. And of course, they do more extensive follow-ons for the people who are admitted. So, so that's another thing I'm hearing. As far as common areas, maybe it's because there's a lot of people, and maybe it's because the different organizations are doing multiple things. Oh, Kelly, sorry, yeah, Kelly, I left you out, Kelly, sorry. I knew I was gonna leave somebody out.
Yeah, I won't take long.
Yeah.
I'm Kelly Shaver. I'm president of Mindset, which is a private sector research company that conducts conceptually grounded, peer-reviewed, comprehensive, nationally representative studies of entrepreneurial mindset. We concentrate on the people, not on the ecosystem. Our work is always disaggregated by gender, and we believe in publication, so we have presented our research at the Babson Entrepreneurship Research Conference, we will be presenting at the Diana Conference coming up in this summer, and we've also presented at the European Rent Conference, which is the research in entrepreneurship. As for us, barriers, the barrier for us, because we believe in scholarly publication as well as serving countries, is time lag to publication.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's an issue.
But
Yeah,
if you want a national study done, we can do it.
Okay. So you're a little bit in the category with Kim, where I almost think of you guys as like part of the management team. So sometimes, and also you got here late, Kim.
Well, thank you.
And of course, Kelly was our recipient of our Research Champion Award last year. So thank you for everything you've done with the Mindset Project. So in any event, I'm open the floor to any comments, but particularly on what I'd really like to get to in the next 20 minutes is obviously we have all of our efforts. We've come here. I'm emphasizing the possibility of your guys making horizontal connections. If there's anybody that you feel is a resource for your work, either doing something simpler or complementary, that's probably the number one thing we're going to get out of the last hour and a half or hour and 20 minutes of short descriptions. But I don't know if we can really accomplish this in 20 minutes, but I didn't do that. If there are thoughts on how we as a network could amplify any one of the areas that you've heard, and I'm not even going to venture a list because it was really highly varied. Omar, yeah, why don't you go ahead?
One very simple and what I would regard to be a very useful step would be to provide a central database of the entities that are interested in funding entrepreneurship research so that we could access it, because a lot of the projects, a lot of the very valuable projects are relatively inexpensive but do need just a small grant. And if there was somewhere where we could go and not have to trawl the web for all the possibilities, if there was somewhere where, and I guess that's one of the advantages of a network, where all that information could be gathered in one place, it would save a lot of time and probably open the door for many, many more projects than I've done thus far. Thank you.
Here, so I guess I'm the only person taking notes. Okay, so that's a simple one. Okay, anybody else on thoughts on how in the next year, GERN could, go ahead, Fulani.
Yeah, I'm just maybe still sticking with the idea of disaggregation. It might be useful to, because I'm thinking when I come to these, I always think, what does Monday morning look like when I get home? What do I change? And I'm thinking maybe breaking us into different groups according to maybe people doing research at different venture levels, or maybe doing research in sectors. Like my main interest is exploring non-technology entrepreneurship in Africa, because I think that Africa is facing a risk of mono-entrepreneurship. But just I would be interested in any kind of non-tech based ideas of scaling non-tech entrepreneurs, but also who are the people that are researching mindsets, who are the people that are researching graduates, transitions. So I think for me, maybe because there's not a lot of time, we could maybe share maybe a spreadsheet, an online Excel, Google Doc, where we divide that, and then maybe we can then collaborate in smaller teams, and then next year we can come and kind of present.
I agree with that. Sorry, you said land tech, like land tech, like LAND tech?
No, I was saying non-technology entrepreneurship. non-technology.
Non-technology. No, because I'm interested in the land space, so I was like, maybe it was like wishful thinking.
No, if you read data on just last year, about 725 USD went into African startups.
Yeah.
And 90% of that went to tech.
Yeah, okay. That's the first thing I thought when you said it again, I misheard you. But anyway, okay, so non-tech, and I totally buy that. Okay.
But the reality is our need, at least arguably, is that we need to increase productivities and disrupt retail. We need to disrupt agriculture. So I mean, but the big point is maybe dividing us in smaller teams of these sectors or different phases of entrepreneurial venture.
I like that. So let's try something for 5 minutes and see if it goes anywhere. Why don't we see if there's any group of people that wants to self-nominate as the lead of a cluster, right? Rather than my trying to synthesize and looks like we have some areas of interest and and then creating a spreadsheet with those areas of interest. If there's something where you're not only working in a space, but you feel like you would be interested in having a discussion after this meeting with a subset of people working on that thing, but don't give me 3 or 2, just one. So one specific thing, okay? Yeah, Majdi, go ahead.
For me, it's because we had this meeting in the Congress, and it's not a scientific conference. The idea and the focus that we have to discuss is how we can use research to become more useful for entrepreneurship and ecosystems.
Well, that's pretty broad. Do you have something narrower than that? Because that's almost like what we're all doing.
In terms of how we can, for example, convert research result to concrete action of reforms or advocacy.
Okay.
Really, okay. Because after meeting or when you have a research and you publish an article, and after that you have the Minister of Entrepreneurship who come will say, okay.
So why don't we say it's research to influence policy? Is that okay? Are you okay with that? You okay with that? So can we have one? So if you're interested in research to influence policy, and I think that's Adnika and Majdi, and Majdi's going to be right over there. Adnika, you, Kim. Okay, so we got 3 people that are going to be over here in 12 minutes. Okay, talking about research to influence policy, how you do that. Anybody else have something that they really are excited about having to do with entrepreneurship research? Because you should, because we're at the Global Entrepreneurship Research Network meeting. So,
yeah, can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Anyone writing African case studies on youth entrepreneurship across different cities or areas, I'd be very interested.
Okay, what do you want to do with the case studies?
Well, for many reasons. One is we can use them in our programs for curriculum. I'm a lecturer in some universities. I can use that. I'm just struggling whenever I teach entrepreneurship to find pro-African case studies that the audience can relate to outside the Silicon Valley case studies.
So I want to generalize a little bit from that. So how about entrepreneurship? Because that's in the category of entrepreneurship education.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is that as African practitioners, we lack content that is specific, and that specifically should be designed or written by academics in Africa. So basically, which nobody talks about, who is writing African case studies in an academic way?
Right.
We can put together some case studies in some kind of light, 2-page about a particular, but like formalized academic content-based case studies that we can distribute across different programs in universities.
Okay, so
just one idea, yeah.
Okay, so Fulmani's interested in that. You're interested in that too?
No, I was going to say that we can share with you a lot of case studies from my experience from Nigeria, so we can take that on the side.
Okay, all right. So you got that you can bring up. Tatiana, what do you want to do?
Yeah, no, I just want to say that we also have a number of case studies from Africa.
Okay, so you guys,
we can share it.
Fulmani is interested in that. If you have some thoughts from Fulmani, or I think if you're anybody who's interested in that topic about case studies, maybe in Latin America or in Asia or wherever else. I mean, I think there's probably a more of a systematic undersupply in some geographies rather than others. Yeah, Romina, yeah, go ahead. Just go up and find a mic. That's fine. Remedios Diaz, who's Gen Peru.
Yep.
Thank you. For practitioners, I'm a practitioner, so it's very important when we design programs for pre-incubation, incubation, or whichever stage of the entrepreneurship cycle to have benchmarks from the world. So I don't, maybe it's aligned to the case studies, but we can think about what we are doing in our ecosystems and to have like a tool where we can see or find interesting programs, processes, or product, I don't know, that can help us to design this better, to know which good things other countries are doing, and we can replicate them and adapt them to our realities.
That's really important to GERN, and anybody who just wants to take 5 minutes, and I think what Romina has helped us do is just prompt us, but if the focal point of your work is research to improve programs, then there's two things you can discuss with each other. First of all, what are you finding about programs? And second of all, how do you go about that, and how do you accomplish this iterative loop that Sammy talked about? Okay? I mean, Dean, I think you had one that you wanted to bring up. At least there's one activity that you would be interested in getting some support on.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I mean, it's not necessarily one like vertical.
Yeah.
But I meant to say earlier that this year, Startup Genome is working with Jen to produce the next version of the Global Entrepreneurship Index, the GEI, set for release in November during GEW. So I mentioned that here because for this group especially, we'd really like to reach out to you for input, for ideas, for partnerships, if possible, to help produce that.
So, okay, so there's the Global Entrepreneurship Index, and basically, many of you may be familiar with that. It's going to be iterated by Startup Genome. If you're interested in indices, Startup Genome does a lot more than indices, but if they're taking that on, that's another thing. I mean, Harry, Matt, and Teo, you guys are all interested in, well, let's just say RCTs or, evidence-based programs. So you guys are launching a new research fund. So do you want to get together over there for anybody? I mean, maybe it's just the three of you and you already know each other, but if there's anybody else who wants to bring projects that connect a practitioner with a researcher and where there is an experiment embedded, then I think they would want to talk to you guys, right?
Yeah, definitely. I would say for us, it's not all going to be necessarily experimental, but there will be sort of any project that's looking at effectiveness of a program with rigorous kind of methods, but with the question led by the practitioner.
So why don't we have that be the same group as Romina's group, but we'll just say it has like a, so that's going to be, so Romina, you're going to move over there because they're already here. Teo, you're going to be over there just for 5 minutes, just so you can connect. Anybody who's interested in that, since we're here. So we got something on indices, which maybe it doesn't necessarily, like you say, have to be a vertical, but if you want to talk to Dane about the index. Yeah, I mean, and obviously Kelly, with anything having to do with mindset research, Kelly and Omar are doing that. And we'd love to have some buy-in. This has to do with everybody in the room, by the way, not just everybody around the table. So I think that you can count on Kelly and Omar to talk about mindset research. We've got a group that's going to be here with Majdi talking about research to influence policy, which is extremely important. Anything else? Anybody else want to? Yeah, you can only have one, though. It's his? Okay.
I like the idea developed by our Chinese colleagues. It's if we can have a common methodology to evaluate the city ecosystem, entrepreneurship ecosystems.
Okay, cities. So that's back to Startup Genome. City ecosystems. So so maybe why don't you bring your index thing over here? And so it's going to be cities, ecosystems. And your index is national, but it could also be cities. So, so we got policy, research to influence policy, and right next to that, you guys will be talking about possibly city ecosystems. Obviously, you know, we've done a lot of work on that. Anybody else who's interested in city ecosystems? If you're interested in more than one of these things, you're going to have to go back and forth. You know, it's kind of interesting. It's coming up like not dissimilar from. There's a little bit of a constancy to these. I'm trying not to be too directive about it, but you know, it's not that different from what we had before in our verticals. But anybody else with something that's burning that they feel like they would like to have some collaborators in this room, or at least a 3-minute discussion with folks who share the interest? Trying to think about who else I can pick on. University-based programs. Yeah, why don't we say university, except we have Bangladesh, and then we have let's see, now I forgot. Rosario University, Gina, is she still here? No, she's gone. Oh, Ecuador, yeah. So university-based, you guys could probably get together. I mean, there's a lot, that's a very distinct sort of area, university research, and also the programs.
Yes, for universities, interesting to make, in our country we have, as you all, we have rankings, and we need to make research, and it's better if we make research, international research, and co-found some of them.
Okay.
Then we would be interested in doing such
All right, since
things.
we already have a cluster over here, maybe Bangladesh can visit Ecuador, and anybody else who wants to talk about universities. This is just for 3 minutes, just so you can get connected, see if you have any quick ideas. So universities are going to be over here. I think we're up to like 5 now, different areas. Sammy, do you want to, is there something you want to nominate for things that we should be working on together?
I'm just going to walk around and learn. That's
Phil. Last person I want to pick on is Lucia. I mean, OECD is an aggregator, and you're coming here not because necessarily you need partnerships, because you have partnerships all over the world, but you know, since you are here and you've just heard what everybody's doing, is there anything that, you know, from an OECD standpoint, you think that this community could help support what you're doing? And I would say same thing with you, Tatiana. Maybe you and sort of like the major international organizations with a lot of leverage, but maybe some gaps in the networks. Like, do you have anything you want to propose?
Well, first is that we need partnerships.
Okay.
We have, but we need partnership, knowledge partnerships, and also engaging more with practitioners. I think this is a direction that is very clearly taken also at the OECD, to have more and more multi-stakeholder dialogue. So where really we do not talk just among policymakers, but we have more and more the various actors of the ecosystem. And if I can then propose one other topic, I mentioned before inclusive entrepreneurship, but this can take various forms, is then the scale up. Because yes, we see interest on not only scale up of startups, but scale ups as a broader concept.
Let's definitely make that a focal point. So that will be, Lucia will be focused on anybody who's doing research on scale-up firms. And I think that's both the firms themselves, it's the characteristics, it's the ecosystem, the whole thing. So that has come up over and over again, because I think we're at the stage where we've had a lot of startup programs, and then countries are sort of looking, you know, at basically the outcomes, and they're realizing that what we really needed was some more scale-ups from those startups. So, okay. I mean, I do want to end on time, and it is 5:19. So, oh, Harry's going to jump in last minute. One thing.
One last thing that came up earlier was we're all interested in how do we use the data, whether that's policy or practitioners. So it would be great to hear stories of how people have successfully done that, because this is an area that we're very much learning. So I'd love to hear that as it emerges ahead of next year.
All right, so let me know if I'm leaving something out. We've got experiments, Harry and Matt and Ramina and Teo. And that's sort of program level. We have universities. It's going to be over here, but we just lost Camilo, but he'll be back. So universities are going to be over there. We've got Lucia's going to be talking, just a few minutes, gather up about research for scale-ups. And Tatiana, are you going to join that, or are you going to do something else? Whatever. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're related.
Okay, then we're going to have a discussion in that corner around case studies, particularly African case studies, but other case studies. And then we have two over here. One is research to influence policy, and the other one is city ecosystems. Did I leave anything out? Okay, thank you very much. I hope that you enjoyed learning about what everybody else is doing. And let's just try to make the most of the next 4 minutes to see if we can catalyze some bottom-up action. Okay? All right, thanks. I'm going to join your group.您的第一次在这儿，对，okay. So who connected you? How did you come here? 谁给你的 visa? Jonathan. 在北京？在北京。Okay. So very welcome to the club. So, and you're interested in... Yeah, remember? Yeah. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Yeah. We'd like to appreciate that you have done a very good moderation in many different sessions. Yeah, today and yesterday.
Okay, well, yeah, well, I mean...
We'd like to introduce me to this gentleman from China, so that maybe, especially
Yeah, well, I'm very interested in city ecosystems topic, and there was a time when I lived in Beijing in 1986, so I've had a chance to see how China has changed. I'm very interested in China, but I haven't really done any work in China for a while. So there's, and obviously for Gern, we're inadequately present in China, so